gentlemen, welcome to the first edition of Crouch, Pause, Engage from Turnier College Rugby Club, Lakelands. I'm delighted to welcome our three panellists for this evening, Brian O'Meara, Gerry Murphy, and Joe Smith. Thank you guys for joining in this evening, and our chat tonight is all things rugby. Brian, welcome.
Yeah, thank you very much. I feel like an imposter with this Turnier mob.
No, we'll be very soft on you this evening. Brian, you're educated in Cork, 2 senior cups, were with Munster and then joined Leinster and won 99 caps, 9 caps for Ireland, and also a number of times on the bench. And an interesting, you're the 6th highest point scorer in Leinster history, which is something I didn't know. So congratulations on that. There's probably a few you left behind in the Perpignan game, though, I think, was there?
Thanks for reminding me. Yeah.
Somebody just told me about that. I didn't really know about that one. Gerry Murphy, a legend, started his coaching career in Wanderers, spent some time in Clontarf, went on to coach Ireland from 1992 to 1995, including the World Cup in South Africa. Has been involved, coached. Probably his greatest achievement is that he coached Turnier College for 6 years after finishing with Ireland. And he just recently retired from his role within the Leinster branch of rugby, which he'll be sorely missed for his guidance on so many coaches and players over the years, lots of whom who would have featured on Leinster teams over the last decade. So welcome, Gerry.
Thank you very much. And
of course, Joe. The good thing with the Wikipedia is that it's quite easy to find information on people. And due to your success, your Wikipedia pages are endless, Joe. The only person I know who has more Wikipedia pages than you is probably Rala. So you've coached Ireland from 2013 to 2019, 3 Six Nations, a Grand Slam, 4 titles when you were with Leinster. So we're delighted to have you here. We miss you all in Ireland. And so how are things down in New Zealand?
Yeah, they're pretty good. Kelly and Luke are just off for a swim. It's 8 a.m. The sun is out, and we're hanging on to the last vestiges of summer, which should last for another month or so. So it's a nice time to be here, and it's a nice time to have the freedom that they enjoy here.
And Gerry, one of your first jobs when you coached Ireland, I'll be correct, was to interview Rala for the bagman job. Is that correct?
I have a number of claims to fame. One was that I selected Rala, and I think the other is high on the list of superlatives is that the claw. I also picked the claw for his first cap too. So it's a good combination.
Very good.
A hooker and a tight head.
And there's no truth in the rumor, Joe, that Rala interviewed you for the Irish job, is it?
He did frequently. And normally, sadly, normally he was driving somewhere. So as you know, he doesn't drive very quickly. So to get from Dún Laoghaire to Turnier took 2 days. So he had plenty of time to do it.
And Brian, just one of such a slight apology, but I think you're probably happy with it, that on the social media poster that went out, there was a picture of Christian Warner instead of you. So I presume being mistaken for a bronze surfer isn't the worst thing that's ever happened to you in your life, is it?
Well, no, first of all, you put out a post saying 3 Irish rugby greats. I've barely played for Ireland, so I felt embarrassed and a bit of a fraud originally. And then when you put my picture up as Christian Warner, I don't think you realise that he was probably the most bronze Australian Adonis ever. So in any nightclub in Irish rugby, women flocked to him. I was like the ugly duckling in the corner. So you kind of ruined my week, to be honest.
Well, we thought there was a very good resemblance at the time when we put it up.
I think I've matured better with age, but I was a bit of an ugly duckling, to be fair. So no, but look here, I'm delighted to be here. I think Sean Skeen asked me originally. I have a good connection with him from St. Michael's. So I'm delighted to make any sort of contribution. So
would Sean have been one of your pupils, or was it a bit after your time?
No, he wasn't. No, thank God. He was being a bit of a messer as well. His brother would be the director of rugby, who I know pretty well.
That's good. So, guys, do you watch the games over the weekend? How do you think they were? Gerry, what do you think of the French-English game?
I thought it was a fantastic thing. I think, sadly, what think that what came out of the weekend is that the Six Nations is somewhat split as the top two. I'm leaving the Welsh out of this. I'm not going to say anything about Wales, but England and France seem to be somewhere ahead of the rest of us, put it mildly now.
And Brian, what do you reckon on the France performance against England?
First of all, it's great seeing them back playing good rugby. But I think there's such a mindset that when France do something, it's like this cavalier attitude, or it's like off the cuff, heads up rugby. Some of the tries they've scored so far have been some of the best prescriptive coaching I have seen. And that enables them, obviously, to do their offloading play and their skills. But some of their coaching has been fantastic, which has been unlike France over the last 10, 15 years. So a lot of their strike play against Ireland, their strike play against England yesterday was sublime, but it was really great coaching. And I think a lot of people ignored how well coached they are at the moment and just give it credit for their offloading game. But they've been a revelation, to be fair. And Dupont is, for me, as a scrum half, watching him play is just, well, what a breath of fresh air.
Yeah, I think there's a misconception out there that heads up rugby doesn't involve a lot of coaching. It's probably the hardest thing to coach, I would think. Joe, what do you reckon?
Yeah, I think with some of the personalities they've got, I think Fabien Galthié would have enough to work with. I totally agree with Brian around Dupont, but I think Jalibi is still a kid, but he's really starting to emerge as a fantastic player. He's got a long kicking game and a varied kicking game. He's a real threat to the line. He's quick, and his passing game is really good as well. He's a pretty brave defender. He had to cope with some pretty big men yesterday. And so across the board, Ficou's a handful. Brice Dulin in the 46th minute, if you were going to coach going up for the ball in the air, his technique is superb for a small man. He gets up over the top of bigger men, a bit like Hugo Keenan does as well. And I think Ireland winning the aerial battle today was crucial in the lead up. That aerial battle included the line out with Paul O'Connell, obviously having a pretty good influence there. 6 steals in an international was fantastic, but. Yeah, so I think what Brian was talking about, if you have a look at Damien Penaud's try, the lead up to that, straight off the line out, the interplay, the running lines, the timing of the passes, I thought that was superb, so they have got some good prescriptive plays, but with the personnel they have, I think Fabien's got a bit to work with off the cuff.
It was probably the Six Nations in itself sort of came a bit alive this weekend. I thought the entertainment value in all the games was reasonable, and it's probably hasn't had the good press it has over the first few weekends. So it's great to see. In particular, I'm probably a little bit biased, some small backs making impacts at international level. There's still a place for them.
For sure.
Just one point on France. I think it's great that France have moved away from a goal-kicking scrum half. So as Joe said there, their halves, whether it's Ntamack or Jalibert, they're the main focus of the team. Whereas traditionally it's the scrum half who's doing all the goal-kicking. It's so hard to balance a goal-kicking scrum half with somebody who's bringing pace and energy to the game. I think it's very difficult to marry the two. And it's good to see that Dupont is just playing like a live wire scrum half. And the key player is their 10.
And I would have felt that, in fairness, England actually played a bit of ball yesterday, which was unusual for them from their opening few games. Jerry, how did you rate their performance yesterday?
Yeah, they're just a very strong side. They always play like that. It's no great difference. They move the ball about a little bit. They only move it when they want to move it.
Would you not have felt a little bit more of a spark in their play yesterday than in previous weeks?
Yeah, yes. No, they played well. They won the match. They did everything they had to do. I wouldn't be a great fan of the way they play.
Yes, it certainly doesn't get you excited all the time, but in credit yesterday, they put some good patches together. And one thing I would have felt over I thought the standard refereeing this weekend was quite good, Joe.
Yeah, we obviously a couple of weeks ago had some big high impact decisions that were obviously one wasn't managed great, and the other one was a bad call. And obviously Ian Henderson, scored the try early on in Rome. So there were a few misses, but I think it's something that they'll be working away on. And Joël Juge runs a pretty tight ship, and he's got them working pretty hard. So hopefully we see good refereeing performances. But I think it's always easier for the referee when the players play pretty positively. And there were two great games. It's hard with Italy to get really excited in the game because Wales got away early on, and it was never going to really be a contest. But the other two contests were very, very tight, and there was really good entertainment value. I did think England kicked a bit less and played a bit more this week, and France did as well, because they kicked the ball a lot, but they played, and right from the first minute and 6 seconds when Dupont went over and scored from a great chip ahead from Teddy Thomas down that left-hand touch. So some great entertainment.
Yeah, it's probably fair to say that the players and the referees have improved over the opening two rounds of the Six Nations. And you have to give the referee, because it is a hard, when they're first starting off in the international, the Six Nations, there is pressure on those as well. So I do think that your role in congratulations on your new role in the World Rugby, the High Performance Director. How's that shaping up or settling into it?
Yeah, it's not like coaching. I miss the coaching environment. Not so much match days, which are pressure cookers, but I miss the camaraderie and the really tight unit, the shared collective purpose that you have as a rugby squad. So I miss that, but it does allow me to spend more time with Luke, particularly in the middle of the day, because I tend to work at either end of the day. Sometimes meetings don't finish till 3 a.m. And I tend to do early mornings, but in the middle of the day, I can spend a bit more time with Luke.
Well, you'll be pleased to know that there's always a role in Turner College for you. Whenever you want to take the whistle out again, Joe, we could certainly pitch in.
Thanks, Moggy.
That's going out live now, Joe. Okay.
Yeah. Yeah, I'm not sure you're in a position to actually offer job opportunities, Moggy.
That doesn't stop me doing it, though.
No doubt.
And Jerry, you have a little bit more time on your hands at the moment. So how are you fixed next Tuesday?
Moggy, I am very busy. I've no spare time at all. Okay. And Dublin 6W doesn't enter into my mind at all. South County Dublin, here I am, and I'm not allowed to go to Turner. Thanks. Well,
it's just outside your 5K.
Fortunately, it's just outside my 5K. Thanks be to God. Right.
And Brian, when you teaching in St. Michael's, you've obviously coached a number of the players that feature in the Ireland squads. When you at a young age, would you have noticed the talent in a number of them, or have they developed over the years, or how have you seen their development, I should say?
A good question, because I think there's about 17 players involved in Leinster from Michael's from the last decade. And people always ask me, like, I don't think we're doing anything special, or the coaches in Michael's aren't doing anything special. It's almost like it's just inbred daily. So if you see, like, how can I explain it best? You might see like a Ryan Baird walking down the corridor, and he was ever eating something bad, you'd have like 20 lads in the corridor, like, what are you eating? This could affect a cup campaign. Or it's just, every match is very, very important. But what they're good at doing in Michael's is developing a really good habit of professional lifestyle, whereas maybe some other schools might prepare just for a cup campaign. So like they're in the gym from second year, their diets improve, their video, maybe it's over the top, I'm not too sure. There's definitely a balance there. Okay, I've stepped away from coaching, but I think what they're really good at is preparing for life outside of schools rugby and professional rugby. So it's a tough one. I think they're very lucky as well, obviously, okay? Like you need a lot of natural talent to come through. But I think the players there feed off the player. And they have one really good system is there's no parent involved in coaching. And I think that's unbelievably important. The majority of the coaches is past players. So you'd have 2 or 3 teachers ahead of each team, but it would be always past players from the previous 2 or 3 years who are coming in. So it's kind of like a repetitive, a repeating cycle. And it's always keeping up to date on the best practices. So it's hard to define, really.
And would all the guys that have come through, would they have been earmarked from an early age that they had the possibility, or is there any, like, I know for Hugo Keenan, it was probably a late surge in his, I believe, when he was in Blackrock, which is great to see that you don't have to be banging away at the top level from the age of 12. Would Michaels have got guys later, developers?
Yeah, that's a good question. Great question, actually. I'd say it's 50-50. Like when you see James Ryan, when he was a second year, I was his assistant coach in Junior Cup, you know that he had the talent to go on. But then there was a lot of other players who, it's like you just follow the success, right? And they'll see more players getting on. It's mostly about belief. Mm-hmm. Where you see players following, they're making it to Irish schools, they're making it to Leinster School or Leinster Academy. Geez, I can do this as well. I think a lot of them just follow in the footsteps of other people. Like Luke McGrath was one of the first to come through. What a great professional rugby player, right? So, no, it's 50-50. Some you can say, look, Ryan Baird, a freak of an athlete. Like when the season's over in Leinster, he often went to the Irish Athletics. He'd turn up with no training and he'd win the shot put by about 4 or 5 meters. So you have those type of brilliant athletes, but then you have other people like Cian Keller who couldn't catch a pass in school and just slowly develop through skill and practice. So it's 50-50.
That's good. He certainly made an impact.
If that answers your question.
Yes, Ryan certainly made an impact today when he came on anyway, which was great to see. He seems he's a special player, Joe.
He didn't take the easy option.